All right.
Remember, guys, that I'm reading the chat if you have any questions.
So this right here is one of the larger aircraft we actually have on display. This is called the C-124 Globemaster II. The Globemaster I was a large aircraft designed during World War II. Never saw service during it, but it's going to be a strategic transport. As you can see, this is a very large opening here. It actually could lower these walls right here and create a 2-deck aircraft. And it actually does have a third half deck in the bottom here. You can see right there with those windows.
Has the museum had some troubles keeping kitties from running up the ramps?
Normally this is open so that you can see that. But yeah, they would try and run up the ramps when we have perfectly good stairs. But it is... it normally would be open to the public, but due to coronavirus, a lot of stuff is closed off. As you can see, this is just a giant aircraft. If we move over here, this is a display about various people who participated in Korea. You have police uniforms, you have pilot helmets, you have all sorts of interesting designs, and they all had personal paint schemes on them and everything. Personal art was still very common at the time as a way to sort of boost morale and just make everything look nice. You know, not just follow the standard. We do have a Korean POW uniform that the North Koreans would put on the on prisoners. This was actually worn by a B-29 crew member that was downed during Korea, because they were still using B-29s at the time. We do have a display about the medals of honor earned during Korea over there by Air Force members. I'm probably not going to cover that for time reasons, but you can go on online and look them up. They're all fascinating. Here we have an H-19. I believe it's the Chickasaw. Let me double check. Yeah, the Chickasaw. Which, if you look at it and say that looks a lot like the H-34, that is because this is the predecessor to the H-34. It does have the big engine in the nose here, and the pilot sitting on top, and then you have a cargo bay in the bottom here. This is a rescue boat. They would drop these from B-29s midair over a crash site, and then the people who crashed could get inside of it. It has a heater, it has food, it has gas, and you can drive it around a little bit until you get rescued. And actually, you can pull these cloth covers over so that you're not baking in the Sea of Japan. Above us, we have another helicopter called the R-5. The R-5 was another World War II design. It was used for rescue and reconnaissance. Actually, it's really interesting because it has a piston. It has a radial engine that's on its side, so you can sort of make out this bump right here. That right there is the radial engine sticking out. This right here. Sorry, what?
Avis is asking, do you have bits for the ground crew? They seem to be underrepresented in some museums I've been to. I think in the earlier hangars there were some.
In the earlier hangars, like the A-20 is designed to look like there's maintenance being done on it. We do have a few things about ground crew. If I go around here, I'm trying to think off the top of my head where everything is. We start to talk a bit less about ground crew as we get farther on into here. Mainly because the jobs didn't change much from when they were talked about in the earlier hangars. I went the wrong way. No. But for example, if we do go over here on the H-19, the hop-along, which, by the way, the hop-along was the first helicopter to make a transatlantic crossing. So That's what this helicopter is. I mean, as you can see here, we do have it mocked up as a ground crewsman working on the aircraft. And there are a few bits throughout the museum that talks about them doing that, what they're doing, and how they do it. There's definitely a bit farther in the museum that talks, for example, about security forces and everything. This B-29 fuselage, it is torn up. It's painted as the Command Decision, which was a jet ace that it did kill jet planes with its guns. These bombs are some of the first guided bombs used in warfare. After, obviously, for example, the Fritz X. This is a VB3 Raison, which stands for range and azimuth. So you could tell the range of the bomb. You could tell the azimuth, which is the vertical direction of the bomb. These would have been used against targets such as dams and bridges, as well as this big chunky guy right here, the VB-13, which is the Tarzan. The Tarzan was built out of a tall boy bomb. As you can see, it is a tall boy. And then it had these guidance fins added onto it. We come over here. They must be doing some kind of work on the RB-45. They are constantly upgrading and restoring things. The B-45 was the first jet bomber that the Air Force designed. It has these weird dual-potted engines. Originally, it would have had a glass nose, but this is a reconnaissance version, which replaced it with a radar. They actually flew these over the Soviet Union, but the Air Force didn't want to get caught doing that. So many of them, like this one, were, let's call it donated to the Royal Air Force. And then the Royal Air Force flew them over the Soviet Union. with totally not American air crews. They were definitely RAF. Definitely not Americans. Don't you dare spread that rumor. But the RB-45 was one of the first jet reconnaissance aircraft as well because of that. And as you can see, it's a really fascinating looking plane. It's a design that very quickly went out of style. Here we have an AT-6, which is a T-6 Texan trainer. But it has a communications suite in the back, if you can call it that. And it was used for forward air control, forward air communications. And it would have these bomb rockets right here are smoke rockets. You could use them to target stuff. And this was the first time we had really used forward air relays and forward air controllers in combat. If we come over here, we have a Jeep. We have some tactical air control parties. So these guys would have maps. They'd be coordinating all the stuff on the ground, and they'd relay it up to the T-6 there, who would then relay it to other planes and other people on the ground. And it was the first time we had seen this level of coordination for warfare, which is really impressive. If you come over here, we have the F-94. This is an F-94A, I believe. The F-94 was a radar-guided fighter. So it was the first time we had seen these large radars in the nose, these large search radars. Then you'd have 650 cals in the nose here. No, wait, is this one 4? Yeah, this one's 4. I think the B might have been 6. I could be wrong about that though. But so you'd have your 450s here, and then you would actually be radar guiding your way through it. The F-94 is in fact the plane that crashed trying to chase a Po-2. The famous, Po-2 that shot down a jet fighter. It was one of these right here. It is actually
For the
What
people
was
in
it?
the chat, this is the F-94, the Starfire, not the F-89 that we have in the game.
Yeah, this is the F-94. It is actually based off of the P-80/F-80, whichever you want to call it. As you can see, these are the same intakes you would find on a P-80. The difference is it has a much larger afterburning engine in the back, and then it has the big radar in the nose. The later F-94s would switch to rocket interceptors, so they would use not rocket powered, rocket based, like the F-89 is. Over here we have an F-84E in a really lovely paint scheme. I love the very colorful look of this whole thing. This is the Four Queens. Nothing too special about it, but it is a gorgeous F-84, and I would not mind seeing this in game. But yeah, I mean, it's got its 450s in the nose, 150 on each wing. Just an absolutely beautiful aircraft. If I come over here, we do have a HVAR, which the crazy thing to me is munitions like rockets and bombs are always a lot larger than they look. Because if I put my hand up to this, look at it, that's an HVAR. That whole thing right there. Like that's the little HVARs you hang off the wing of a P-51, you know? That's always crazy to me. We have a 220-pound bomb here. So, I mean, yeah, it's a fragmentation bomb, so it wouldn't be good to see in game because those are anti-personnel bombs. You're not going to do much to a tank. The fragmentation bomb. This is the A-26C Dream Girl. We really like redheads at the museum. We have a lot of pictures, a lot of nose art with redheads on them. We have the Memphis Belle, we have the Strawberry Bitch, we have the Dream Girl. So this is obviously an A-26. It's got gun pods on it. It's got a little 250-pound bomb on the wing here. If we come around to the back, you can see the gun pods on the back there, or the gun turrets. One there. The one in the back here was actually removed on the C, I believe. So yeah, here's our A-26. Technically, by this time, it was called the B-26, though, because of Air Force designation rule changes.
Hello there.
This is one of two A-26s at the museum. The other one is going to be in the Vietnam gallery. If we look here, you can actually see here's the B-45, which is not a small plane, and you can actually compare it to the C-124 that I showed you earlier, the large cargo aircraft. And you can see just how much bigger this thing is. Compare it to the F-82 there in the distance.
Yeah.
The F-82's wingspan isn't even that of one wing of the C-124. Here's our F-82E. This is a night fighter aircraft, although it does not have the radar pods underneath it. Or sorry, this is a G, not an E. What am I thinking? This is their F-80. So this is the F-82G painted up in night scheme. You can see it's got the black and red writing on it. Gorgeous aircraft. And it's got the 650s in the middle there. This was actually an airworthy model until it was crashed. And then the Air Force reacquired it in a legal case after it was crashed. So this is one of our F-82s here. The other one's going to be in the Cold War gallery. Here we have the two most famous fighter aircraft of the Korean War. Over here we have an F-86A. As you can see, it is all original metal. You can see the guns have been fired. This one does have leading edge slats like the A model did. The late A models did. It is painted up as Lieutenant Colonel Bruce Hinton. Oh gosh, Bruce Hinton's F-86. He was the first man to shoot down a jet fighter in combat over Korea, or the first F-86 pilot to shoot down a jet aircraft in Korea. It always looks very surprised, doesn't know what's going on. Oh my god!
It's pog champing.
I gotta. Never mind. I gotta show you something, Bryce. This MiG-15 here is a MiG-15 BIS. It was flown by Lieutenant No Kum Sok. Rather unfortunate name, but he was he was a North Korean pilot who decided he didn't want to live in North Korea anymore. He had lived under Japanese rule, thought this sucks. He lived under North Korean rule, was like, this sucks. I'm not going to do it anymore. So one day, he decided screw it. He took off in this plane, this very plane here, flew to South Korea. He didn't get chased by any of his comrades. He didn't get shot down by American air-to-air because they were shut down for maintenance that day. And he almost hit a plane while landing because he landed the wrong way on the airfield. But he got lucky, made it to the American airfield, landed, and got $100,000 and a citizenship to the U.S.
There you go.
This is
It's a good trade.
Hell yeah! And all he needed to do was give up this plane. We have items that he would have had, including his Tokarev TT-33. And other items from inside the MiG-15 here.
Oh, just before the story, someone is asking what happened to him afterwards.
Oh, you mean No
The
Kum?
pilot. Yeah.
He's still alive. He was teaching engineering down in Florida last I heard.
Well, there you go.
Actually, he might be retired now. Don't know about that bit, but yeah, he became an aeronautical engineer at Embry-Riddle, which is a pretty good job, if you know anything. Embry-Riddle is the main aerospace engineering college in the U.S. So he had it pretty good. He changed his name to Kenneth Rowe, R-O-W-E. But he's a pretty cool guy. I know some people who have met him when he's visited the museum. But yeah, so his it's a very happy ending.
As a side note, it's funny because the other day we were talking about that story with Rokker and readjusted. I think the amount of the bounty was like 10 times, 5 times the amount.
Yeah, it was a good bit. It's 100,000 in 1953. So it would be a pretty good investment today. Over here we have a comparison between your standard MiG-15 pilot seat and gun sight and your American one, which I gotta say, the American one looks a little fancier and a little more comfortable. I'm gonna be honest.
I would choose the American, if I'm honest.
Yeah, personally, I think I would choose the American too. Over here we have some armaments again. Right here is a Noodleman NS-37. We have an NS-23 up here. And then we have an M3 Browning up here. You can see why these cannons were considered more dangerous to the American aircraft than this was to the Koreans. But at the end of the day, better training prevailed, and I will say that the Americans were quite effective. The last thing in the Korean hangar, I got through this a little faster than I expected. I want to check to see some of this, but we'll keep going. If you want to see anything later, we can go back. Over here we have our F-80C, obviously the first jet fighter to go into service in the U.S. Air Force. It is a fun fact about this aircraft is they were given 180 days to design this thing. And I think they did it in 179. So this is one of the fastest designed aircraft of all time, as well as a wonderful example of what happens when, plane designers are left to do what they want to do.
What is that material that it's on?
This here?
Yeah.
This is temporary airfield strips. You would just lay these down and just build a metal airfield out of empty space,
Oh no, I
basically.
think he meant like what the plane is made of.
No, no,
Aluminum.
no. I was talking about the airfield strip thing.
Oh, the airfield. Oh, okay, okay.
Never
Yeah.
seen
So
that.
you could set up an airfield practically overnight. No need for no need for asphalt or anything. You would just go into a flat area, flatten out a bit more, lay a bunch of these down, and you got an airfield. That was used a lot more during World War II, but Korea did see it
Many
used a
people,
bit.
many people were surprised about the deadline that they got to design the plane and that they actually made it. Got them.
Yep, yep. It was crazy, and it actually turned out to be a good aircraft too. Like that 180 days was not wasted at all. They made the most of it. Over here we have two flags, obviously the South Korean and the best Korean. Um, and we also have some UN allied patches. That's a cool patch. I never really paid attention to that. The eyes and ears of Mig Alley. Oh yeah, this was a aircraft warning reconnaissance squadron. Yeah, dude, I can never get over how big the C-124 is. It's just not meant to it's not a plane. It's too big. It's a building. We have some modern
Okay.
stuff in here.
Or if you are changing, if we're changing scenario, let's. How about we do a bit of Q&A for the guys in the chat if you want
Yeah,
to
we
ask
can do a
something
little Q&A.
about the hardware that you just saw or the stories. Also, Conte posted a bit of a conversion thing. And
Oh, for the money.
yeah, and if you were to do the same thing in 2020, he would have received 900k.
There you go. I knew it was close to a million.
Mm.
Are there any
Um,
sidewinders in that old Korean thing? Korean
in the
exhibit?
what?
In the Korean
No,
exhibit? No.
no. Sidewinders were technically post Korea. They came at the very tail end of it. Uh, so you're not going to see any until Vietnam over there. Um, obviously, right here I'm sitting in front of an F-22, and this bad boy up here is the Boeing Bird of Prey, which is a stealth test bed aircraft, which also doesn't look like it's meant to be a plane. It's not meant to. It's not a thing. It's like it just doesn't follow any of the conventional rules of aircraft.
Yeah, it looks like I just draw it in paint. God damn.
Yep, it looks like one of your famous leaked pictures.
Yes, officially 007 said, "Hey, that global hawk up there, my father was the second to operate it during testing." That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. That was probably that one then, that very Global Hawk, because that is the prototype Global Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got through Korea. Is there anything you want me to go back and check out for you?
Are
All
there
right.
any Swedish stuff?
There is no Swedish stuff, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay,
I would love to
before
see it, but it's hard to fit in here. You know.
before we continue, they've been bugging me to go to lunch. So now that Tech returned, I can actually pass the torch also to
Okay.
Bryce.
There you go.
I'll try to make it as short as possible. Sorry, guys.
All right. We'll see. You can always check out the VOD later if you
Yeah, yeah.
want to catch up on anything.
Yeah, don't worry. See ya. It won't take too long.
All right. See ya. So up here, yeah, we have the Global Hawk, which the one officially 007 mentioned. This is the YRQ4, the prototype RQ4 Global Hawk. This one actually holds a Collier Award, which is a aviation award given for extraordinary feats, because this was the first autonomous aircraft to fly to fly across the Pacific when it flew from the U.S. to Australia on one tank of fuel.
So that's a drone?
That is a drone. It can fly for 36 hours at a time. Uh, and it's a aerial reconnaissance. It'll fly up to 70,000 feet and then watch you from higher than you could ever see it, which is crazy.
So we do have a question from chat, Rokker. Which is more interesting to you personally? Is it the Korean War era aircraft or the Vietnam era aircraft?
I am a Vietnam era aircraft. I love the F-82, but Vietnam is so crazy and so cool. There was a lot of shaking up going in the air, going on in the Air Force at the time. But yeah, I like the pure ingenuity that came out of Vietnam more than Korea. But it's also worth noting that Korea was only 3 years long and Vietnam was closer to like 10, 15 if you go for like the full length. So, I mean, there's more to choose from basically. So here we have an F-22. As you might notice, none of these aircraft are Vietnam or Korea. This is what we call the modern flight gallery. This is where generals will get their promotion ceremonies and people hold retirements and stuff. So it's nice to have the fancy toys in the background. That's basically why this is all here. This is obviously the modern stealth fighter. It is the newest air superiority fighter of the Air Force, although it is going on 15 years old now. And actually the first one was designed in the early 90s. So it's getting up there in age now. But it is a cool aircraft. Up on here we have the second oldest plane in the museum. This is the original Wright Model B flyer. It was built in 1916. But the first ones were built in the early 1910s. So I'm going to go over to this side to start Korea because it technically goes that way around chronologically. This over here, well, also up there we got an RQ-9 Reaper. It's a reconnaissance and attack drone. As you can see, it's got Hellfires hanging off of it.